And just a couple of things. The restrooms are across the hall. I unlocked both of these doors so you can get back in without having to go around. We've got a desk up here with a chair and a microphone for anybody that wants it. So we'll call the meeting to order for the selection of our Commissioner District 3. For public information, a copy of the Nebraska Open Meetings Act is posted in the back of this room. And roll call, please.
Kelly Sides.
Here.
Dave Eubanks.
Here.
Heather Hostchild.
Yes.
We'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And then we need approval or consideration of modification of the agenda. One thing I did want to bring to light is we did not schedule any restroom breaks or anything. We might want to talk about being able to do that, and it might put us a little behind, but
I would say, yeah, if we need to take a break, we'll have
I don't want anybody missing any of the comments from our applicant, so.
we may call a break, an 8-minute break. At some point. Which would put us off schedule, if that's all right.
Pardon me?
If that's all right. Maybe
To work
perhaps
for
about
everybody, okay.
halfway through.
We good? So do we have approval of
Do we need to do the modification?
modification? Just adding breaks as necessary?
That better?
And the modification of roll call.
Yes, I had added to do a roll call of the applicants in case we needed it. I just didn't want it not there, so we can remove that. We have a motion?
Second. Or all motion.
Second.
Heather,
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
Kelly.
Yes. Have you had a chance to review the minutes from our October 20th meeting?
I make a motion that we accept the minutes.
Second.
Heather,
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
Kelly.
Yes. The committee reserves the right to enter into a closed session if deemed necessary, and from here we will begin the interview of our applicants, starting with Matt Parsley. If you want to come up here. I lost my question. Will you read the first question? It's right here. Thank you.
All right, so.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
It's working.
Thank you. Do you want to go ahead and start? You did. Okay, so, Mr. Parsley, tell us about yourself and why you want to be a commissioner.
Before I begin, I want to say thank you to, on behalf of all the applicants and the people of the 3rd District. Thanks for taking the time to do this today. So, thank you. A little bit about myself. Well, I'm a retired school teacher. I taught 36 years at Scotts Bluff High School, a couple of years up in South Dakota on the Indian Reservation before I came here. Also spent 33 years in the U.S. Army, most of that in Nebraska and the South Dakota National Guard. My wife and I have raised 3 kids in this community, and I just think we were very fortunate to have a community such as Scotts Bluff County to raise the kids, and this is an opportunity for me to give back. This county has a wealth of history and attractions that I really feel that we could promote Brenda Lysy has done, I think she's done a great job as tourism director, trying to promote those things that we have. I do think more could be done in regards to tourism. Like I say, she has done a great job. People come from all over the world to Scotts Bluff County, and any money that could be raised in tourism for the county is one less dollar that needed to be raised in taxes. So we could do more. I wanted to say that this county raises more in tourism than all the surrounding counties combined. So you put that in perspective, we do a lot. A lot is raised, but another thing that I've been active with is County Government Day. My time as a teacher at Scotts Bluff High School, I taught history and government, and teaching government has afforded me an opportunity to participate every year in county government, which every year we bring typically seniors over to Gearing to learn, so that students would learn about county government. And I think that that's so important that they understand how it works and the different things that they do. And so I've always been a proponent of that. I participated in it. This last year I retired, and I talked with Matt Meyer, who over the Veteran Service Officer who oversees County Government Day. He talked me into being a small group leader and took kids around. But I also volunteer. I'm active with the VFW, the Knights of Columbus, Western Nebraska Bike Club. I love cycling. Every year I participate or I help with the Monument Marathon, the Warrior Run. We had the opportunity to do the national gravel bike race that we did here in Scotts Bluff County a couple of years ago. So that's it.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Matt. The Board of Commissioners hold regular meetings twice a month, protest hearings, budget meetings, and occasional workshops. Members also serve on other committees for outside agencies as liaisons to appointed officials. How would you make sure you would be available for those commitments?
Well, I'll just say that I'll devote whatever time is needed. I owe this to the 3rd District and to the people of this county. First of all, I'm retired, and that affords me an opportunity to maybe spend that time on it. It will cramp my love for cycling and traveling, but that's a small sacrifice. I do feel a need to give back. Looking through the past board minutes for the commissioners, it's shown me the immense responsibility that these commissioners have. And I don't know that I fully realized that, but I will say that it's collective responsibility, and no individual commissioner has control over these things, and it's really something that they have to work with collectively.
All right, Matt, tell us about your what you see as your strengths and abilities to work with other board members, appointed officials, elected officials, and just Scotts Bluff County employees in general.
Well, I know personally, and have worked with several of the current commissioners. The elected officials, I've had an opportunity to work with them too through County Government Day and other capacities, and employees for the county. I think I bring a unique skill set. I tend to be able to see both sides of an issue, and I think that's very important. I've worked with people with diverse backgrounds, and I also think that that's important, because you're going to come into contact with people that may not always agree with you, but you have a responsibility to listen. I have no axe to grind. I don't have a specific agenda that I want to accomplish. I just feel the need to give back. Over the years, I've also had an opportunity to work with many of the Scotts Bluff County elected officials and employees, Matt Meyer for one of them. The other thing that my career has taught me and I taught students that you need to do your homework. So to be prepared for this job, I have a certain amount of homework that needs to be done, and I'm prepared to do that.
So describe your budget and financial management knowledge and what you believe to be the difference between working in a government setting versus a private sector setting.
Well, my time in the military, I had responsibility for, as a battery commander and as a battalion commander in combat, I had responsible for millions of dollars of government equipment and expenditures. So I did have some experience with that, overseeing that. In terms of the difference between the private sector and the public sector, I will say that the biggest difference, two things that I see is one, on the private sector, it's about profit, and you have stakeholders that you are answerable to. On the public sector, it is the people of this county that you're answerable to, and you have a responsibility to provide for them what they may not be able to provide for themselves, but you also have a responsibility to be frugal, I guess, with their tax dollars.
Describe your ability to handle concerns from constituents or citizens of your district, as well as county officials and employees.
They are the employer, and I'm the employee. That's how I kind of see things. And when I taught government, I thought that was always an important way for kids to understand the importance of government. They're merely the employee. You work for the people of your district. We have an obligation to work also with all government officials and employees, and I generally see that. As I mentioned, I can see both sides of an issue. I have the ability to facilitate compromise. I think that's one of my benefits. Over the years, the people that I have worked with, I like to think that I can work with literally anybody. And that's a skill that I have worked on. The biggest thing is I think you have to listen. And that's something that I have learned. You know, I have a lot of parents who may have issues about a student, and I have a responsibility to listen to them. I may not agree, but I have the responsibility to listen, and that's something that it's a reality, and it's something that I've had to learn to do.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Matt, anything else you want to add? I think that last question about handling concerns of constituents and citizens, you're going to take there's slings and arrows. And some of that stuff you just have to filter out, but some of it you got to pay attention to. How do you see yourself handling that?
Well, I anticipate that. I do think my career on the military and civilian is that there are arrows that are slung, and you can't take it personally. You still have a responsibility to listen to them. I just think that that's important.
All right. We got some time. Anything? I think. Do we do?
One question that I have is
Shoot.
This term ends when?
Next December, so
That's
you
it.
would have to file next year
Okay.
In March?
No,
In
the middle
November?
by the middle of February.
If you choose to run for this office, you would need to, the appointed Commissioner District 3, they would have to decide by mid-February if they want to pay to run for office again. So basically it'll be 14 months of an appointment to complete the term.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's all. Thank you.
All right.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Rebecca? Yes or no? Do we want to keep reading the questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we know where we're at. So Rebecca, Ms. puts us right back on time. Tell us about yourself and why you want to be a commissioner.
Well, good morning, and thank you for taking your time to do the interviews today. My name's Rebecca Shields. I was born and raised in Mitchell, so I've been in the county my whole life. We grew up in Mitchell on a farm. My husband's a manager at Wesco, and we have 2 daughters. I work at Allo as a business sales executive. I'm currently on Gearing City Council, serving my 3rd term. I also do a lot of volunteer activity. I'm on the Oregon Trail Day Board of Directors. I'm on the newly formed Sports Council. United Way, we're also a host family to WNCC athletes and the Pioneer baseball players. And then I'm on all of the local chambers, Mitchell Alliance, Scotts Bluff, Sydney, and I want to serve as commissioner to help our county continue to grow and thrive while meeting the demands of modern technology. My goal is to position our county as a leader in innovation and economic growth, ensuring we remain at the forefront of progress and opportunity.
Excuse me. The Board of Commissioners hold regular meetings twice a month, protest hearings, budget meetings, and occasional workshops. Members also serve on other committees for outside agencies and as liaisons to appointed officials. How would you make sure you would be available for those commitments?
On City Council, we pretty much have the same meetings here other than the protest hearings. And then if we do have anything out of the ordinary, our city clerk's really good. She gives us as much notice as she can. Like when we knew we were going to have our budget hearing, I think she gave us a month's notice so we could all put it on our calendar for that day. And then I know there's 5 different boards we need to serve on, so I would just kind of go through the list and see when they all meet, see what would work best for my schedule, and also, you know, what they might need filled in for also. Right now in City Council, we do the same thing. We have to serve on 2 different committees outside of the city, and then we're also on committees within the city. So like I'm on the Parks and Recreation and Public Safety.
Describe your strengths and abilities to work with others, board members, appointed officials, fellow elected officials, and Scotts Bluff County employees.
I feel I'm a very easy person to get along with. I come to every city council meeting with an open mind. I have no hidden agenda on anything. I listen to what the citizens or other council members have to say depending on what's going on at those certain meetings. And I believe everyone can respectfully disagree and talk through the issues without heated conversations.
And when are the city council meetings?
So we're the opposite Mondays. So we're the 2nd and 4th Mondays of the month. So if I would get this position, I'd have to resign my city council position.
Okay.
Describe your strengths and abilities with working with other board members, appointed officials, fellow elected officials, and other Scotts Bluff County employees.
We just
did that.
We did that one? I thought we did the commitments.
Nope.
We didn't do the strengths?
We're on 4.
I'm sorry. Describe your budget and financial management knowledge and what you believe to be the difference in working in a government setting as opposed to a private sector setting.
So right now in city council, each of the department heads have their own budget to work with. We get a copy of the budget so we can review. So like before our budget, we'll review it, and if we have any questions, we can ask ahead of time. But it's more that, you know, we trust all the department heads. They know what they need. We might have questions or maybe suggestions. I think the main thing that we need to do, whether it's city council or on county commissioners, is you know, we have to look at the present budget, but we also need to look into the future. You know, what equipment could break down or what needs replaced. We just always, especially with the way finance is going right now in the government, we need to make sure we have that money in the general funds and just look ahead as far as we can as to what could possibly happen. You know, where do we need to set those funds aside for? And the county has a large area to cover, so we need to be aware of everything going on throughout the county, which the department heads do a great job of letting everyone know, and just that we continue to look into the future and present needs to make sure we're covered.
describe your ability to handle concerns from constituents or citizens of your district as well as county officials and employees.
Same thing, I listen to everybody with an open mind, because I don't know everything, so I want to hear what everybody has to say. If they come to me with a problem, then we just need to figure out what's the next best step to take. Do we go to somebody else, and how do we handle that?
So do you have any other thoughts or questions or concerns that you?
I don't. Do you guys have any other questions for me?
Rebecca, I think I do. Tell us about your management. I think you've managed, at least on your resume here, it says you managed 10 employees in the sales department. What's your experience managing employees? What's the most number of employees that you've managed?
Yep, so we did used to own a business, so of course I had to do a budget there, and we had 20 employees, so I managed that. That was over about 10 years ago when we sold that business. And then, yep, at an internet company I was at, I managed employees. We were a remote company, so a lot of them, some were from the Philippines, some were all from around the USA, so I had to just learn each individual person and the best way to train them and work with them, especially ones with the Philippines. It was a little different work style.
So
And then I
you're
had different goals and budgets we had to meet, so I had to make sure everybody was doing their job and pulling their weight so we could get to the numbers we needed.
So you're currently on the Gearing City Council. Tell me why you're looking to change to the county.
I love the city council, and I love everything we do for the city of Gearing. I think being on commission, you cover the whole county, so you can help such a bigger array of people and different things going on.
Okay. Anything else you want us to know? Now's your time to sell yourself, I guess.
We still have 8 minutes. So.
No, I think with my background, I know what what we all have to do as commissioners, same as council members, and I'm willing to do what's needed.
Okay.
All right.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you.
Jonathan?
Right, so tell us about yourself and why you want to be a commissioner.
Again, thank you all for being here today. Appreciate your time out of your days. My name is Jonathan Van Gelder. I live and work here in Gearing. I work for Massic Distributing as the Power Sports and Trailer Sales Manager. I've been there 7 years. I basically juggle budgets, people, customers, inventory on a daily basis. Actually, I had to go to work this morning and juggle inventory again. A little about that. When I started the business, was hired on. We were doing roughly $100,000 a year. This year, kind of a monumental thing. We'd hit $3 million. So we've grown a business within Gearing. We are expanding. We're going to build another location. So I've been part of that. Obviously, couldn't do it alone. Same with the commissioners. Nothing gets done alone. Not one person. So for me, becoming a commissioner wasn't something that started as the recall did. I actually started this back in January. I met with Kent Ewing for the Gearing mayor, talked to him, asked him some questions. He told me I was crazy for thinking about doing this, but I told him it was something that I felt that needed to be done. There are just so many things that I saw that I felt that I could step up and make a difference. When Brenda was put on leave, I met with her for several hours at my work, kind of picked her brain, started making phone calls. My father-in-law is a county commissioner in Platte County, so I've leaned on him to see what he's going through. So there's a lot of similarities in counties, not a lot, but there are some. So I decided at that point that, hey, this was going to work for me. I started building I guess you could call it a war chest with people. Started getting funds set aside to run for election. So my actual opportunity was to run against Mr. Knapper. It wasn't, the recall just sped things up for me. So now I sit before you today, and now I'm getting an interview by you and 36,000 other people. So
The Board of Commissioners hold regular meetings twice a month, protest hearings, budget meetings, and occasional workshops. Members also serve on other committees for outside agencies and as liaisons to appointed officials. How would you make sure you would be available for those commitments?
Well, the first thing I did before I made any decision on this was I spoke with my wife to make sure she was okay with me giving this commitment to the county. After I spoke with her, I visited with my boss, the owner, Joe Masick, and then with my operations manager. I got their 3 blessings, and I teased my wife. I asked my dogs, hey, it can be okay me being gone? They didn't answer. So I live locally. My schedule's very open at work. I am the sales manager. I've learned to delegate a lot of duties to other staff members so that this won't become an issue. I live 2.5 blocks away, walk through the park to get here. Live on 12th Street, so it's not, getting here would be very, very easy. Even if we're in a snow emergency, I can still make it here. So the time commitment and everything like that was well established, easily to do.
Okay.
And can you describe your strengths and abilities, or what you see as your strengths and abilities to work with other board members, appointed officials, elected officials, and Scotts Bluff County employees?
I've spent most of my career dealing with people. I've been in sales since I can remember, my early 20s. So I've dealt with angry customers, angry employees. A lot of that I've learned is people like to be heard. They like to be listened to. And then once they are listened to and heard, you have to understand what their real root of their problem is. And that's where listening, acknowledging, and being there for them has made me a better person and a better manager and a better leader. I've learned that, if you collaborate with everybody, listen, lead without dominating, it really brings a lot of things to resolution quicker.
So then describe your budget and financial management knowledge, and what you believe to be the difference between working in a government setting as opposed to the private sector.
In my job, I have to account for every dollar where I put it. And if it doesn't work, we don't react to a situation. We want to plan and then be proactive on where we put our money. If I screw that up, I answer to my operations manager and my boss. That's an email or a phone call, and then we reallocate monthly. Something with the county, it's all about public trust. They want to know where their money's going, how it's going there. This isn't just one job. It's working for, roughly 36,000 people, and they're the ones that we have to be accountable to know where their money's going. So I feel that doing that with transparency, being open, being approachable, and just being efficient with where we spend the money from the county.
And lastly, describe your ability to handle concerns from constituents or citizens of your district, as well as county officials and employees.
I feel most of the time, again, that when somebody has a concern or question or complaint, if you want to call it, they want to be heard. They want to know their voice is heard. So I make myself available. I know a lot of people. It's a 45-minute ordeal to go to Walmart to buy a gallon of milk. I run into 10, 15 people I know. My wife knows not to sit in the car anymore. It does her no good. She can pretty much finish the shopping anywhere she goes while I'm talking to the 8 or 9 people I run into. I've held that belief in the jobs that I've had. I've been selling stuff from nuts and bolts to cars to side-by-sides to trailers, and not one time have I ever had to hide from a customer. I won't do it. I will never take advantage of somebody. I feel that same approach is coming into the county. If you want to talk to me, I already have the clearance from my boss. My wife already knows it's going to happen. If you have a question or concern, I'm 100% approachable. I am that person. If you want to talk about it, let's talk. If we don't agree, that's great. We can not agree today. I want to hear what you have to say, because I always tell everybody, there's 3 truths to every story: yours, mine, and the truth. So if we can sit down and have a great conversation. You might change my mind, you might help show me a different side of things that I'm not knowing, so. If more people are bringing the same complaint to you, the same concern, that's an issue. That's where you involve other departments. You start to get people together saying, hey, this is starting to be a concern. We need to look at this. And then you start involving the people you needed to make a change.
I guess one question I have, you said that you manage people. How many salespeople or how many people do you actually manage there at Massac?
So there's 3 shop guys and 4 upfront guys, and we're actually hiring another person right now.
Okay.
And then when we move our location, the Stable Club, I don't know if you're familiar with the location, we have trailers stored there now. Once that opens, it will be, we'll probably add 8 or 9 more employees that I'll manage at that point. But right now, that's what we have.
When is that expected to happen?
Well, it's supposed to be March of 2027, but they've ran into some Army Corps of Engineers stuff on the side with the cattails and just various different project delays on that. But I've seen building plans about 3 different times, so it's going to be a very large building, and it'll be the bright spot in Terrytown when it gets built. Believe me.
And we heard some from Mr. Parsley on volunteer work that he does, works with other folks, and I think he's worked in the private or the public sector for quite a while. You're in the private sector, and you've raised sales up to $3 million. You said that this year in 2025. Is that right?
Correct.
How do you see yourself dealing, or have you worked in the public sector where you've been devoting your time or volunteering your time?
Most of my time spent, it's not at work. I play competitive sports. My wife and I play competitive volleyball 3 days a week, and I travel. I've been in 14 states and 2 countries playing softball. So that's where I spend my time. I volunteer to, if an organization needs help, my softball team gets together and do it. That's what we do. We've cleaned up properties. We've went and helped people move. We've done a bunch of different stuff like that to give back. But as far as committees and volunteering, I am not involved in that, no.
All right. Thank you. Anything else you want to add, or do you guys have any questions?
Yeah, I was gonna ask, is there anything else that you wanted to add that you believe is important
Nope, not
to let us know? Okay,
Thank you.
all right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Christy?
that
Good
yours?
morning.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Morning.
All right, Chrissy, so tell us about yourself and tell us why you want to be a commissioner.
Sure. So as you all know, I'm Christy Peterson, and I have a number of reasons that I want to be commissioner. I will say that I think you have a lot of talented individuals here applying. I was happy to see the number that applied for this spot, and I'm going to spend the next 15 minutes trying to convince you why I'm the most qualified. I grew up on a farm in Scotts Bluff County. When I was a senior in high school, I didn't take the ACT or the SATs. I thought for some reason college was probably never going to happen for me. I had my first son when I was 19 years old, and then I married a deputy sheriff and had 2 babies back to back after that. At that time, I was lucky enough to have a boss that told me how smart and capable I was, and after listening to her, I became a non-traditional student. So I raised these kids of mine with a husband with law enforcement hours, worked full-time, went to college, and got my bachelor's degree when I turned 30. After that, I decided I would go on and finally, my dad says I was in school for 20 years, but I finally got my master's degree when I was 40. I'm a vice president and branch manager of Riverstone Bank just down the street in Gearing. I worked as a commercial loan officer for 13 years at Platte Valley, and I've been at Riverstone for about 2.5 years. In my relatively short period of time at Riverstone, I've grown our loans and deposits in that branch by about $30 million, which is fairly significant, I think, and correlates to those customers who have either followed me over from Platte Valley or just came in the bank and were comfortable working with me and either brought over deposits or loans. In my position as a banker, I obviously have great interest in people and businesses in the county. I've worked for the last 16 years or so to try and find finance solutions for people and businesses that want to grow here and want to prosper here. I have a wide range of customers, very eclectic group. I might have somebody that comes in for $1,000 loan to pay a heating bill, and I think the largest loan I've done for one business is about $16 million. I love our community and never want to leave. I'm one of about maybe 7 people who have competed in the Monument Marathon every year. 26 miles is a long way to run. I've done the full marathon twice, and for a person who hates running, it's an extremely long distance. But I don't do it because I like to run. I do it because of what it means to the community and the tourism, and it's just a super cool event that our county gets to host. I've sat on a number of community boards in my employment with the banks. Both banks are very community-minded. I was the CASA treasurer for 6 years. I'm currently on the Humane Society board. I'm on the Rural Workforce Housing Development Board. I've done the United Way. Just a number of things. I went through leadership, Scotts Bluff, and was voted class speaker of that group. I was voted as the young careerist one year in Panhandle BPW, the women's group there. So I just really enjoy being active, I guess, in our community. I am a property owner in Scotts Bluff. At one point, I owned 11 properties here. I think I'm down to 5 now. I, like everybody, open up our little yellow cards, and I've never actually protested my taxes on any of those properties because I review them and feel like they are fair. I have helped other individuals protest theirs when something was amiss there, but I definitely have experience in property values and what kind of drives the market. I've taken in a handful of youth over the years who have come and lived with me, not foster care, because that would imply that I get paid to deal with teenage shenanigans, but I do that just because I'd like to be someone to them such as I had, to try and get them on the right path. So I think I have the skill set and the community mindedness to serve my community as commissioner.
Thank you. The Board of Commissioners hold regular meetings twice a month, protest hearings, budget meetings, and occasional workshops. Members also serve on other committees for outside agencies and as liaisons to appointed officials. How would you make sure you would be available for those commitments?
Sure. I am an empty nester, and there are only so many NCIS episodes I can fit in on a given week. I'm always trying to look for somewhere positive to spend my time. I'm very lucky to be employed with a bank who is very flexible and community-minded. I have a strong team that I manage in Gearing, and I'm very flexible.
Tell us about your strengths and abilities, or what you see as your strengths and abilities, and I guess also weaknesses, to work with other board members, appointed and elected officials, and Scotts Bluff County employees.
Sure. So I have been told many times through the years that my greatest strength is my ability to be a relationship banker. I'm very people oriented, and I like building those relationships. My job is not always easy or fun. I have boards and committees and customers that I work with on a daily basis, and sometimes they're happy people and sometimes nobody is happy. My focus is always trying to build a bridge, for example, between a customer and a committee, and try to bring a sense of harmony to all. A lot of my people are very rigid. A lot of people in my position are very rigid, and if something doesn't fit perfectly in the box, they can turn the deal down, and I'm very much about finding a solution that might not fit exactly in the box, but it works for all parties involved. I've been very successful in doing that. It brought me the honor of being nominated Lender of the Year on more than one occasion, and I think I do a good job working with people. As far as weaknesses, I don't know if I can fit them all in the 15-minute time frame.
Give it a shot.
Sometimes I'm very off the cuff with what I say. I can be stubborn, I can be a perfectionist, but I also, I'm worldly enough at this age, I guess, to know when I make mistakes, and I do my best to be accountable when I know that I screwed up, and I probably, if elected as commissioner, I probably will make a mistake at some point.
All right, well, thanks for your honesty on that. Next question?
Okay, so obviously you have budget and financial management. So what do you believe the difference between working in a government setting is as opposed to a private sector setting, especially with budgets and finance?
Sure. So for the last 20 years, I've worked in financial management and budgeting every day. Prior to being a loan officer, I did the budget for the Banner Health Hospital in Ogallala. As I mentioned earlier, I have a very eclectic group of customers. They might show up on a bike, or they might show up in a, whatever fancy vehicle is the fanciest these days. Budgeting and finance obviously gets more complicated the bigger you go in terms of dollar amounts, but the general rule is the same for all, and that's being accountable. We all have a limited amount of money that comes in, and what seems like an unlimited amount of money going out, and we need to use common sense to manage those dollars and as a guide to properly spending it and saving it. I think government setting is much more difficult than a private setting, and I have a number of reasons for that, but the two that I think are the most obvious, governments, with the government shut down right now, that's obviously in the forefront and has the ability to make us or break us. An example would be the Roadrunner. Their funding is being cut, I saw last week, and people might read that story and think, well, that doesn't pertain to me because I don't ride the Roadrunner, but you have the little old lady or little old guy who take that Roadrunner and get their hair done every week. Well, then they can't go get their hair done, and then that's 10 less haircuts for a barber that week, and so then maybe he skips going out to dinner with his wife, and it's just kind of a trickle down effect, I guess, of how decisions like that can affect us. From a bird's eye view, it seems like possibly cutting that program puts dollars somewhere else, but in a community our size, it has a bigger effect than one might originally think. In government, people are a lot more invested and a lot more vocal with what they see as being done. Tax dollars are the main source of revenue. In a private business, customers don't care if you overspend on a concrete mixer or a new paint booth because they know that you're gonna get the job done with the equipment. if the county goes out and buys a new concrete mixer or a new paint booth or something, every resident is going to think that you paid double what it's worth and that you're overpaying the staff who are operating those things, and commissioners are going to hear about it. You know, really the big difference is that the funding for government, I think, is harder to come by and more heavily scrutinized than a private sector is.
Chris, you said you mentioned that. Have you been, and since you mentioned Roadrunner, there's been some issues, some discussion in the media regarding the possibility of hiring freezes, wage freeze, reduction in workforce, things like that, which are just reality based on the economic times that we're going through right now. Have you had to deal with that ever in your career with reduction of force, hiring freeze, wage freeze, things of that nature?
So not.
And how do you get that across to your employees and say,
Yeah.
this is unfortunately the reality of the situation?
Yeah, so I'm kind of in that situation now. We have a new person coming to the bank, but we've decided that an additional person that we lost, we're not going to replace, and so that's something that I've communicated to the staff. So on a large scale, no, I do see it in my business customers. You know, when you have a customer that has gross revenues of $50 million a year and, you know, something goes wrong and they can't hire people or they can't replace people. So as far as me, you know, personally having to deal with it, no, but I deal with it on the backside when I'm trying to work them through a situation that they may be in.
Describe your ability to handle concerns from constituents of your district as well as county officials and employees.
I was really excited about this one because I can't wait to tell you my favorite complaint story. But I think my experience in general.
You have less than a minute left, so.
Okay. So I'm the branch manager of my bank and take complaints and concerns on a regular basis. One particular customer complained that our teller was too nice, too friendly, and she didn't appreciate it. I also manage 5 women, so women can sometimes be prone to complain about each other. If you've ever worked with all women, you know that. I take complaints from my bosses and the boards and the committees that I'm on. I take complaints from my kids. When I was at the hospital in Ogallala, it was my job to meet with different department heads and take their capital requests and their complaints and what they needed and either decide whether those were valid or whether they could go another year without purchasing a MRI machine, for example. So I think people talk to me because I listen and, you know, I'm human, so.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Dave. David.
Thank you all.
Good morning.
Hi.
All right, so tell us about yourself and why you want to be a commissioner.
I guess it's because of my life that a lot of what goes on in the county government is what I have lived. You know, I started out on a dairy farm, my grandpa's dairy farm, so I know how to work hard. And then went into the United States Air Force. And I was a fighter mechanic and primarily jet engines. So most of your fighters back then were single engine fighters. And that job, the jet engine mechanic, you don't make a mistake. People die if you made a mistake. So kind of learned early on that, you know, do it right and be done with it. So that kind of goes into my, you know, I worked my way up the ranks to NCO, and part of the NCO school is that you, what you do is you gather all the information that you can before you give a directive. And that's pretty much what I've done in life. after I got out of the Air Force, I had my own construction business for several years. And it got to the point where either I had to go big or get out. And in the hours that I had to put in, because I was just starting a family, I just decided to sell the business. And so I ended up as a health inspector for the city of St. Cloud. It's a city of about 65,000. And some of the questions that you have, I have lived through, like the question of downsizing. In my 23 years in the health department, we went through 3 of them. Okay, what do we do? How do we remedy this situation? One time, we had to freeze wages. And I mean, I was an inspector, so I felt it. But we knew that it was either cut staff or freeze wages. I campaigned for just freezing wages. Okay, so because you know what's coming in, and the poor person we'd have to cut, they don't get anything. So I chose to freeze wages. In the health department, we were, I guess you'd call it the enforcement arm of the city, in the sense that through civil actions, the criminal actions that was taken care of by the law enforcement, the lawyers, and they took care of criminal. Administrations, though, I guess I consider I won't say crowning decision, but there were times when we would do drug busts, and the crooks would, let's say the police department would do the bust at midnight, okay? The drug dealers, they would post bond, and they would be back out in the same house an hour later doing what they did because they had served the search warrant. And back then, I don't know if it's changed, but back then a search warrant was done once, and that was it. So that if we wanted to go back into that house, the police department, they couldn't do it. They had to go get another search warrant signed. And as everybody knows, you don't wake a judge up at 2 o'clock in the morning to serve another search warrant on a place you did a couple hours before. So I got together with a young lawyer that the city had hired, and I said, what can we do? And he come back a couple of weeks later, and he said, well, this is what we can do. So it's called an administrative search warrant, which is for a health inspector. I had the power to close down buildings. If it was a hazard, yep, I could close them down. But there were things like these drug houses and stuff that, yeah, they get right back in again. And so it's called an administrative search warrant. What it is the city, I go in, I do the inspection, and I take control of that property temporarily. And so that nobody goes in. I control that property until the health director deems, okay, here we go. Usually what that required was to kick everybody out. They arrested the bad guys, and everybody else gets out. And then in the morning, I would say, okay, come back in at 8 o'clock in the morning, and take care of the health violations, and then it's your place again. And so that's what we did. Is if the bad guys came back into the house after I posted it, they now were trespassing on city-controlled property, and that the police department could go back in without a search warrant, and they could arrest them. And first couple times, the bad guys they tried it, and they got arrested. And the one quote, I guess it is the bad guy says, well, I'm gonna call my lawyer. And without thinking too much, I responded with, well, that's okay, you call your one lawyer, I'm gonna call my 5 lawyers, and we'll see who wins. So that's kind of, I've dealt with the worst, I guess you could call, of human nature, and also the best. I have held up $30 million developments because of the planning department. Planning department was great. Those people were fantastic on the future of laying out something, but they had no enforcement. It says, oh, we can do this, you gotta do this, but there was nobody to enforce it. So that fell on the health department. And also to say that, or let's say in connection with staff cuttings and stuff, well, the health department, they cut the Parks Department. And so the Parks Department no longer did noxious weed inspections and things like that. And so that fell on the health department. Well, okay, now we're doing weed inspections beside all our other inspections. So I felt that, okay, you know, cutting back staff and stuff like that, I've lived it. As far as ordinances, I know how to navigate ordinances. I can navigate the health department. I can navigate the IBC, that's the International Building Code, and the planning department plus the health departments, all their codes. I don't know what's all in them, but I know how to get there to find out what it is. Like I say, I can navigate codes. I did it for 23 years. As far as public life, I've been a public service really for almost 30 years. 4 years for the feds, 23 years for a city, and then 3 years here. So I have a servant's heart. And, you know, just seeing what the county commissioners go through, a lot of that is, you know, going through codes, you know, what's right and wrong. And so that's pretty much it. I've done the hard decisions. I've had to remove preschoolers from their house. That sucked. And I've done, you know, the hard stuff, and then also there was the good stuff too. So that's kind of the, oh, and again, and I'm retired. This time I think it's kind of stuck. My sweetie said, "You've tried to retire for 3 times." And okay, this time it's stuck. So I have the time to do all the meetings that have to be done, because I don't really have a schedule, so I can do it.
Okay. So the time commitments isn't an issue for you?
Pardon?
The time commitment's not an issue then?
Correct, yeah, time commitment is not an issue. I guess one side effect that I think of too is that we're relatively new here. We've only been in the area for 8 years, grandkids. And so I don't have a preconceived notion on people, because I don't know many people here. Whether, you know, that, you know, 20 years ago somebody's sister did something wrong with somebody else and now there's a grudge out there. I do not know of any of this. So as far as
Oh, you'll
being-
find out.
Yeah. As far as being impartial, I think I bring that to the court also.
So I think you've covered question 2.
I was going to say that's pretty much it. I was going to say Christie stole a lot of my thunder.
Yeah, and I think on, you know, describe your strengths and weaknesses, or perceived strengths and weaknesses and abilities to work with board members, appointed officials, elected officials, and Scotts Bluff County employees. And going back to your resume, what type of experience, I guess, to start that off with, do you have as far as managing employees?
That is limited. Overseas, I'm a Vietnam vet, so that I got malaria over there. So there was a while that I couldn't get out. I was a field maintenance person, so I went out on the flight line and made sure the fighters were in good working order, and then I got malaria, and I could not do that particular duty. So they well, I shouldn't say stuck me, but that's what it is, put me in the jet engine shop, where I had 35 guys work on the floor. And but it was pretty much just scheduling and giving some input as to, okay, guys, this is how you do the right way of doing a jet engine, impressing upon them that no mistakes, you have to be perfect.
So then, besides your management ability, and what's your budget and financial management knowledge? And
I've never bounced a check.
well, that's a good
So-
thing.
And also, I really go back to my time working, you know, in the health department, where I wasn't like in the actual union negotiating committee, but I had a lot of input there, because by that time had been there for about 14 years. So and I had been through 2 of these budget cuts already. So I guess that would be, you know, working with the different committees. And then again, it's, I go back to, I have really no preconceived notion of anybody. I have very few people here.
So then, what do you believe, since you've been in the public sector and in the government sector also, what do you believe the biggest difference is between that?
The private sector is, I guess it's bottom line, and in the government sector, it should be performance, you know, because the government, you're set. This is it. Okay, we can't go out and get a part-time job and increase the budget and do this. So that a government job for finances and stuff, that's set. Whereas a private sector, yeah, you can maybe support or upkeep, bring in more finances through outside means.
Describe your ability to handle concerns from constituents of your district as well as county officials and employees.
Okay, as a health inspector, every day you got phone calls. Our phone literally, 8 o'clock in the morning, our phones were already ringing. And that was 5 days a week. The health department, because of the budget cuts and things that we lived through, we've had a lot put on us. And usually there's somebody not happy on the other end of that line. And it's you step back and you gather all the information you can before you make a decision. And a lot of time, well, it is, okay, we have a complaint, so you go out to make sure it's valid. There are people that I dealt with over the years that, I would write a letter saying, there's a garbage house, okay, so write a letter. You'd write a letter to that particular property owner. And then about a week later, the next door neighbor would call and say, what's this letter? My yard doesn't do this. Well, with good old technology and computers, yeah, the offender basically photocopied the letter, changed the address, and put it to trying to get back at the neighbor. So again, like I said, I've dealt with the worst of humanity and there, but again, it's always first get all the information you can, because somebody's mad. Our health director used to say, if you're not threatened with a lawsuit at least twice a week, you're not doing your job. And so that's pretty much what I worked in 23 years.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any other final thoughts or things that we should know?
Nope, I think if we're falling behind, there we go, catch up.
Right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jerry, I think you're next. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, sorry.
How's everybody?
All right, Jerry, so tell us about yourself and why you would want to be a commissioner.
I was born and raised in the county. Started out at Hague. That's a small town. But anyway, went to school in about 5 different schools. Somebody said it was because they were pushing me out, but because my dad moved when he worked for farmers, so I had to do that. And I graduated from Baird High School because McGrew closed down my senior year. And I'm a Vietnam veteran. Proud of it. Some people are not, but I am. And when I worked for numerous places, I owned a gas station. Gas shortage hit. No more gas. That was in '73. And worked for different, other gas stations, but also I went to work for Goodyear and had their management training, and worked for Olson Tire out of Torrington with 4 states. I traveled, and I go, there's more to this than traveling 4 states and icy roads and hot temperatures. So I went back to school, worked 3 part-time jobs, and got my associate's degree, and then my bachelor's degree, and then a few years later, my master's degree in business. So it took a little bit of work. It took a lot for, the family to do that because I had a wife and 2 kids at the time. And if it wasn't for Pam, I wouldn't have been able to do it. But, it worked out. I worked for medical imaging for 16 years and worked for the county for 12 and a little over 12. Enjoyed it. I decided to retire, and some days I wished I hadn't, but that's okay. So, why I want to be, I ran in 2018, and there was 3 of us running, and the votes were split, and there was words going around, you know, that I was on with the board when they decided to give themselves a nice raise. The county commissioners, that is. Tried to convince them to spread it out over 3 or 4 years, and they didn't, and so I got associated with that big raise. Outside of that, I worked with all of you when I was here, so.
So you are familiar that the board holds regular meetings,
Oh, I'm very familiar
Twice a
with
month.
all the meetings.
the protest hearings, budget meetings, you know of, occasional workshops. Members also serve other for outside agencies and liaisons to appointed officials. How would you make sure you would be available for those commitments?
Well, I'm retired, but also, before I decided to throw my name in the hat again, I spoke with my wife, of course, and she's so I'm available anytime.
Even for protest hearings if they last a whole month?
I'm aware of it, but I was not required to be in the protest hearings unless I was protesting myself, which I never did.
Jerry, can you describe your what you see as your strengths and abilities to work with other board members, appointed officials, and elected officials, and Scotts Bluff County employees? And I like to throw in there, what do you see as weaknesses, if you do think that there are weaknesses?
Well, as far as my strengths go, I always want to do your strengths first. Like I said, I worked here. I have a master's degree in business, and I was a management accountant, which takes care of all the budgets, making sure they're running correctly, and working with the county treasurer and county clerk to make sure their revenues and their expenses coincide. And but also I had classes when I was working my master's for group processes, and that helped me quite a bit. When I was the personnel director or HR director here for that 12 years as well, there was times that I had to call upon those classes to, calm myself down on some of the people and their ignorant ways. They weren't ignorant at the time, I guess you'd say, but it always worked out. We got them worked out, and the budgets was always interesting. We spent a lot of nights working on budgets right here in this room, and when they get the preliminary budgets and you're $3 million over what can be expected, there's going to be some pain involved, and we did that as well as we could do it at the time. And there was another time when the government was shut down, and we put all out that nothing could be purchased unless it was an absolute need. And all the big purchases, if you remember, Heather, we put those into April and May, because that's towards the end of the year, and that's when we also get one of the most money, when the county gets the most money. And weaknesses, I try not to be as headstrong and stubborn as I used to be, and my wife can attest to that. A little more mellow, I guess you'd say. So,
Jerry, have you worked with any of the members of the current board? I think Ken Meyer was.
Ken Meyer and Mike
Mike.
was an employee over at the detention center,
Yeah.
so we visited quite often when I had to go over there every now and again to settle disputes and stuff.
Have you kept up on, I guess, how the board has been functioning? What do you see as different between when you were here as management accountant and HR person working with that board and this particular board?
Well, back when I first came to work for the county, there were two had finance degrees, and there was a guy, Doug Leafgreen, his profession was health and insurance and that kind of thing, and then Mark Masterton owned many businesses, and they had a good background in business, and they were also on the board for a number of years, so they taught me how to get along with them, and knowing now, I don't know if this board, look around, has as much experience as they did. I've been to several of your meetings lately, the last 6 months or so, and so there would be very little training that I would need or lessons, because it hasn't been that long ago that I worked here. So, you want me to compare the two boards? I don't know if I want to get
No, that's
too political. Yeah.
You don't need to do that.
Okay.
That's okay.
That's all right.
So obviously you have budget and financial management of the county, but what do you believe the big difference between working with the government finances in a government setting is
Well,
versus the private?
Yeah, and I came here for 16 years with a private group. They were a radiology group of 6 radiologists, sometimes 7, and that was completely different than what I'd been in, as working for Goodyear or any of those others. So I had to learn their way of doing business, but there were 6 of them. If you had 4 votes, if you needed something right now, all you had to do was find 4 and get their yes or no, and you could do it. Well, not with county government. You gotta advertise it, and you gotta put it in public, and it takes longer, because private sector moves faster, and county government, I don't know about cities, but county government does not move that fast on some decisions, as you all know. But it works out. I mean, you got to be open to the public for sure. And but when we used to have budget hearings, 1 or 2 reporters might show up, and that was it. But then you got the feedback later on saying you guys are ripping us off, and that kind of thing. But nobody would show up for the meetings. And one thing I wanted to say is also that county government and city governments are different. They have some similarities, but they're run differently, and their budgets are way different. Because I used to talk to the city of Scotts Bluff budget person, and the things they could do, we couldn't do. That was kind of different.
Okay, describe your ability to handle concerns from constituents of your district as well as county officials and employees.
Well, I did that quite a bit here as management accountant, but also as the HR director. Had a lot of disputes, but you got to, like what's been said earlier, you got to listen to the whole story, both sides, and then make the most logical decision. And you're not going to be friends with both. You have to be prepared for some disagreements and that. But I thought I was always fair in all my dealings with personnel, and some of them were pretty difficult. So I don't have a problem dealing with problems. I have a lot of them. No. We have just on a side note, we have a 5-year-old. She's 5 now. She's been with us for 4 years. We're her guardian. She's our great-grandchild. So you have to learn a little more patience than you had when you had your kids or when you had grandkids. And
It's strange how it's so different.
somebody told me it goes around, what goes around comes around. I go, I don't know if I believe that or not, but I've lived in Gearing 48 years. All my kids went to school here. All my grandkids went to school here. All my great-grandkids are going to go to school here. So I'm vested in this county.
I don't think I have anything else. Anything else you want to add, Jerry?
You know, my learning curve would be very short.
All right,
All right, thank you.
thanks.
I would call this halfway.
Yes. I would say that we should take a break and be back, at
5 minutes.
5 minutes? Okay. We'll be back at 11:21.
Thank you. I'm just gonna leave that going. I slide this down just because there's a pause, and so it sounds like you're recording somebody and I don't. I see you're not drinking the coffee. I didn't sure you can.
I had coffee this morning. I'm good.
Oh, is that how you do that?
And I can't
I
drink
still
out of
have two.
styrofoam either, so.
Oh, that's why I wanted you to bring the coffee cup. I think we are ready.
All right. So next is Emily Norman. Hi. Go ahead and you can, yeah. All right. Okay, Emily, so tell us about yourself and tell us why you want to be a commissioner.
Sure. I apologize. I sound funny. I'm getting over a cold, so bear with me on that. My name's Emily Norman. I currently serve as the Dean of Students at Western Nebraska Community College. So I oversee a lot of the student life things there, emergency management, crisis, things like that. And I reside in Terrytown. And part of my involvement there is I work on the city council. I am Terrytown's city council president, and so when the mayor's out of town or unable to attend things, I step in his place. That means I'm involved in a lot of our local boards, from the county level to other community aspects as well, and have really, really enjoyed my time there. And when this position came open, a couple citizens from Terrytown approached me and said, hey, would you think about applying for this commissioner role? And I said, well, absolutely. I think Terrytown often gets lost in the midst of everything to do with the county, and so it meant a lot that they approached me and asked me to throw my hat in the ring, so to speak. I'm interested because my community thinks that I can do it and that I'd be an asset, but also because I really enjoy making a positive difference anywhere that I'm at. And being able to serve in a capacity to really bring a unique perspective, a new perspective, being open, honest, and transparent would really benefit our county as a whole. And, you know, I also got to thinking that the world is really, really hard right now, and there's not a whole lot we individually can do on a macro level whether that's nationally or worldwide. But there is something we can all do within our own communities. And so being able to step up and serve and make a difference in a positive manner would mean a lot to me as well as my neighbors.
The Board of Commissioners hold regular meetings twice a month, protest hearings, budget meetings, and occasional workshops. Members also serve on committees for outside agencies and liaisons to appointed officials. How would you make sure you would be available for those commitments?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually reached out to somebody about all the time commitments because I was curious how I could balance that with working a full-time job at the college. And that conversation really helped put in perspective the actual time commitment of this position. And then I went to HR as well as my supervisor and my team that I supervise at the college to discuss what that would look like should I be selected. And, you know, everybody at the college is super supportive of any kind of community engagement that we pursue or deem appropriate. And so my role there is very flexible. As student life, I do a lot in the evenings and on the weekends, and so during the day I can take time here and there for whatever I need to do. And they also allow a certain amount of hours that can be dedicated specifically for community engagement. So full support on that front, which is, I realize I'm very lucky to be able to do that and work at a place that would allow me to do that. I would also step back from a few of the other involvements. So obviously City Council would be one that I could not do anymore, and all the boards that come with that, as well as a few other volunteer boards that I'm on, and local engagement pieces I would step back from in order to ensure time and energy for county work.
Okay.
Describe your strengths and abilities to work with other board members, appointed and elected officials, and Scotts Bluff County employees.
Yes, so I am a very growth-minded individual. While I hold strong values, I see a lot of benefit in learning from others and really listening, taking in what other folks are saying, and trying to empathize with the position that they have, should it differ from my own. I really listen to learn and to grow, and I've been really lucky in my position professionally in my career, as well as working in local government lately, to be able to work with people from all walks of life and different experiences and different values that they hold. And I'm very capable of finding common ground with people. And I think that's really important considering the work that we do, as well as the versatile political climate that we find ourselves in. It's really important to open our minds up, listen to one another, and find where we can meet to make the best of everything that's going on. Compromise is a big one, and finding priority in what we can budge on, what we can give a little here, take a little there, and really working together for the greater good and not the individual good. And really what it comes down to is respect, honesty, and transparency. And so really being able to hear people out, understanding that a lot of what we would do comes with a lot of feelings, and letting people, giving them the space to feel those feelings, process those emotions, and then finding logically what makes sense for the interests of the county and the citizens that we serve.
So then describe your budget and financial management knowledge and what you believe to be the difference between working in the government sector as opposed to the private sector.
So I don't have a whole lot of experience working in the private sector, so to speak, working in higher education. We are tax funded, state funded, federal funded, and we have a lot of rules and regulations to abide by with those budgets. For City Council, I've been able to sit through 2 budget cycles now and have learned how that differs from the college's budget cycles and what the similarities are. And so that's been a really great learning experience. This year, I was able to have more of an opinion because it was my second year doing it, being able to really sit in those meetings and those hearings and understand what was being said from a fiscal point of view. And for my career in higher education, so I oversee a lot of different and a lot of large budgets, everything from, like I said, state and tax allocated funds to student fees to, I oversee the residence halls, so the rent that comes with that and how we can and can't use it, and making sure that we follow all the rules and regulations while still ensuring we are spending our money appropriately and in the best interest of the students as well as the institution. And sometimes those differ, and having to make a case one way or the other and being very transparent about why we are making those decisions. And the same is true at the city level. You know, our water is going to go up because our wholesale price is going to go up. And instead of just raising prices on the folks of Terrytown, explaining why and what that means so that they don't think we're just doing it because we can. And really being clear with what is going on is really important. And, you know, we really have to balance the fiscal responsibility we have with the community needs and not compromising what we promise the folks that pay taxes and vote us into office, and really ensuring that their needs are met.
Okay. Describe your ability to handle concerns from constituents of your district as well as county officials and employees.
At the end of the day, people really, really want to be heard, and people deserve to be heard. A lot of our lives are really out of our own individual control, and so being able to have the space and capacity to voice concerns or even, you know, sing praises, whichever, is really important to give space to people. You know, as elected officials or appointed officials, we really work for the people that we represent, and I think it's very important to hear their opinions and thoughts. Because ethically that's correct, but also they may have insights that we personally don't have, and so hearing them out gives us the best information for the community as a whole. And I, in my professional career too, like really welcome concerns, comments, ideas for improvement. Again, I don't have all the answers, and so relying on the folks that are within my area or reaching out to, you know, students for my dean job is really important to get those creative ideas to find what works best on all fronts, financially, ethically, time-wise, energy, all of that. And I just truly believe that open and transparent dialogue helps us grow and helps us work together to be the best that we can be.
Okay.
Anything else you want to add?
Ooh. I think I'd be a really great asset to this team. I think there's a lot of work that's being done, and I think we've got a really hard road ahead, budget-wise, but also just community feeling-wise. I think there's a lot of building to be done, and I think I would bring a very calm, educated, understanding presence to the county, while also advocating for the folks within my area.
Okay. Anything else?
So I just have a quick question for you.
Yeah.
You know, you're already on the Terrytown City Council. Why do you want to switch from the Terrytown to the county?
So that came about when this position opened up was folks approaching me and saying, hey, we think the impact you could have for our community
Just
would
the
be bigger.
impact.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Emily, what are your ties to the community? I see here WNCC since January of '23. Other than that, what are your ties to the community?
Do you mean like what am I involved in?
Well, no, how long have you been here in the community?
Since January of 2023, so I moved here specifically for the Dean of Students job.
Okay, from Northeast Community College, where's that at?
That's in Norfolk, Nebraska.
Okay, all
But
right.
I don't know if you can tell that I have a little bit of an accent. I'm actually from Wisconsin. So, have moved for the furthering of my career, and I'm finally in a job that I really love with people I love. I've got a house here. involved in a lot of the community pieces, government and nonprofits and things like that. So I've put roots down here. I'm gonna stay around for a while.
What do you see as the most important issue to Scotts Bluff County currently and going forward?
So I think budget is the biggest one, but I'm not gonna talk about that because that's what everybody talks about, and it's a very glaringly, it's a big issue that we're gonna have to contend with in a week, especially. But I think from what I can gather, the biggest issue right now is trust in leadership at the county level. And that's really hard because I think there's a lack of trust in a lot of government officials right now, from local city councils, county, state on up, and being able to provide space for people to question, to come up with ideas, to ask for proof and transparency on things is really important, because you cannot run a community, whatever level that is at, without that back and forth, that transparency, and that trust that I think has been lost.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Crystal, you'll be next. Good morning. All right, so Crystal, tell us about yourself and why you want to be a commissioner.
Well, a little about me. I was born and raised here in Scotts Bluff. My mother taught English and German for Mitchell and Scotts Bluff Public Schools. She actually taught with Mr. Parsley. My father was a Scotts Bluff firefighter and EMT. He actually was a firefighter with Commissioner Meyer.
Okay.
So I grew up here in a home with strong civic ties. I went to college at the University of Wyoming, and after college, I actually came back to purchase and run the dance studio that I attended when I was a youth here. So I did that for a number of years until my two sons got old enough that they were starting to become involved in sports and school activities and things, and I needed a little bit more flexibility in my evenings. So at that point, I decided to do a career change, and I went to work in the mortgage servicing industry. I did that for 11 years, and kind of towards the end of that, I was renting an office space in what was then Century 21, and Darlene Kavorik did a very good job of convincing me how much I would love real estate and how rewarding I would find it. So I got my real estate license, and I have been doing that ever since. So as a realtor, I have served on our local and state board of directors, and for both the local association and the state association, and have served on a wide range of committees. Currently, I am focused on professional standards and government affairs. So with that, I serve on the State Ethics Grievance Board and Professional Standards